Why being single is a skill, not a failure. We live in a world that treats relationships like trophies. If you have one, you're winning. If you don't, something must be wrong with you. Single becomes a label, a diagnosis, a quiet accusation. People don't ask how you are when you're single. They ask why. Why are you still single? What happened? What's missing? And slowly, without realizing it, society teaches men one dangerous idea, that being alone means you failed. But what if the opposite is true? What if being single, truly single, is one of the hardest skills a man can develop? Because being single isn't about the absence of someone else, it's about the presence of yourself. And most people have never learned how to sit with that. Most people don't fear loneliness, they fear silence. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't rush into relationships because they're deeply in love. They rush because they're uncomfortable being alone with their thoughts. Silence exposes things: doubts, insecurities, unfinished dreams, unhealed wounds. A relationship becomes a distraction, a noise machine, a way to avoid self-confrontation. When you're single, there's nowhere to hide. No good morning texts to stabilize your mood. No constant validation to prop up your identity. No emotional shortcut when life feels heavy. You feel everything, raw and unfiltered. And that's not weakness, that's training. Being single forces emotional regulation. One of the most overlooked skills in life is emotional regulation. When you're single, nobody rescues you from your moods. Nobody absorbs your stress. Nobody fixes your bad day with affection on demand. You learn to calm yourself. You learn to process disappointment without dumping it on someone else. You learn to sit with anxiety without external reassurance. You learn to face boredom without stimulation from another person. Most people never build this muscle. They outsource emotional stability to relationships. So when conflict hits, they panic. When distance appears, they spiral. When love feels uncertain, they crumble. A man who's mastered being single doesn't do that. He's not emotionally cold, he's emotionally trained. Single men learn self-direction. When you're single, your life has no buffer. Your habits matter more. Your discipline matters more. Your decisions echo louder. There's no partner to compensate for lack of structure. No shared momentum to carry you forward. You either move or you stagnate. That pressure builds self-direction. You learn how to wake up without motivation, how to build routines without accountability, how to push yourself without applause. This is leadership applied inward. And that's why men who've been single for a long time often develop a quiet confidence. Not loud, not flashy, but grounded. They know they can rely on themselves. Loneliness and solitude are not the same thing. Here's a distinction most people never make. Loneliness is craving connection because you feel incomplete. Solitude is choosing aloneness because you feel centered. Loneliness drains you. Solitude sharpens you. A man who learns to enjoy his own company stops begging the world to entertain him. He reads, he reflects, he thinks in long arcs instead of short impulses. He becomes dangerous in the best way because he's no longer driven by desperation. Being single builds discernment. When you're afraid of being alone, you lower standards. You tolerate misalignment. You accept inconsistency. You call it compromise, but it's really fear. Being single removes urgency. You stop choosing people to escape emptiness. You start choosing people who actually fit. You learn the difference between chemistry and compatibility, between attention and intention, between intensity and consistency. And once you see those differences, you can't unsee them. That's why men who've mastered being single often walk away faster. Not because they don't care, but because they care enough not to betray themselves. Delayed gratification is a rare power. We live in an instant reward culture. Swipe, message, hook up, repeat. But real growth doesn't live there.
When you're single by choice, not circumstance, you practice delayed gratification. You stop chasing temporary highs. You stop filling every void immediately. You invest in skills, health, purpose, long-term vision. This doesn't make you emotionless, it makes you intentional. And intention is magnetic. Single men build identity before attachment. One of the most dangerous patterns is building identity inside a relationship. You become us before you know me. So when the relationship ends, you collapse. Men who spend time single don't confuse love with identity. They know who they are before they offer themselves to someone else. Their values are clear. Their boundaries are practiced. Their direction is established. They don't need a relationship to feel significant. They allow a relationship to add, not define. Why society mislabels single men. Here's why being single is often seen as a failure. Because independence is threatening. A man who doesn't need validation can't be easily manipulated. A man who's not desperate can't be easily sold illusions. A man who's comfortable alone won't settle just to fit in. That makes people uncomfortable. So society reframes it. Single becomes behind. Alone becomes sad. Content becomes coping. But look closer. Some of the most focused, disciplined, and self-aware men in history spent long periods alone. Not because they were unwanted, but because they were building. The quiet strength of not clinging. Here's the final truth. Men who master being single don't cling in relationships. They don't panic at space. They don't fear silence. They don't chase reassurance. They choose. They choose connection, not dependency. They choose commitment, not escape. They choose love, not survival. And that choice feels different, calmer, cleaner, stronger. So is being single a failure? No. A failure is needing someone to feel whole. A failure is avoiding yourself at all costs. A failure is confusing attention with worth. Being single is a skill. It trains emotional resilience. It builds self-trust. It sharpens discernment. It develops discipline. And when a man who's mastered being single finally enters a relationship, he doesn't lose himself. He shares himself. And that's the difference.